Hello, my name's Rob Edwards and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about WandaVision. I have been absolutely loving this show. It's a slow burn mystery. Each episode doesn't actually reveal very much, doesn't take us forward very much. But it's offsetting that with sort of fun sitcom hijinks. And the two together really makes for a rather weird but very satisfying blend. I have to say, every Friday I'm looking forward to watching the next episode. I've had a few theories bubbling under about what's going on in the show for a while now. Informed, I'll be completely honest, in my obsession with other YouTube channels that also do theories about it. So things like New Rock Stars and Only Stupid Answers and Film Theory have all done WandaVision theories. But none of them have actually presented the theory that is closest to my heart. So I thought that I would actually spend a little bit of time just laying out what I think might be going on in WandaVision. I have to say, my guess is probably as unlikely as anyone else's, but hey, we're here for it. We love speculating, we love theorizing, so this is what I'm going to talk about today. Before I get into it though, please note this is going to contain spoilers for every episode of WandaVision from episodes 1 through 6. So if you haven't seen them yet, I highly recommend you go and check them out before continuing with this video. I feel I should say like, share and subscribe or something at this point, but anyway, spoilers. That's the big takeaway from this bit. There are going to be spoilers. So, everybody loves Mephisto. We are at a point here where we are looking at who could be behind all of this. And a lot of speculation on a lot of YouTube channels centers around Mephisto. And for good reason. I think there's a lot of merit to this case because, you know, the origins of this show in the comic books owes a lot to a Mephisto plotline. And how the dealing with Wanda and Mephisto resulted in her two sons by Vision, kind of, who were then not real and then real and then grew up to become Wiccan and Speed, and it's a whole thing. But I'm not such a big fan of the idea of it being Mephisto. And I think the closer we get to the end of the series, the less likely Mephisto becomes as the main big bad. I mean, it's storytelling 101. You want to introduce things early enough on so that when you actually reveal the truth behind it all, everyone goes, oh, that's amazing, that's really satisfying, that's exactly what, oh, I hadn't thought of that, or, oh, that makes sense of that weirdness, or that, you know, that's what you want from your storytelling. That's what I would want from my storytelling anyway. And I don't think we get that if the reveal is Mephisto, not by this stage. Because while there have been quite a lot of nods and hints in the Mephisto direction throughout WandaVision, they are all very much in the, if you interpret this Easter egg in this way, that points to Mephisto. If you interpret that in that way, that points to Mephisto. And that could well result in a really satisfying reveal for the people who are really into their theory crafting, who are really deep into the behind-the-scenes stuff on WandaVision. For a more casual viewer, I think having the bad guy suddenly be revealed episode 7 or 8 to be this weird devil analog just doesn't really track. It doesn't really make sense if you haven't been into the theories. And I think that while I'm absolutely convinced the makers of WandaVision are playing with the theories and manipulating what people are taking away from it, I don't think they're going to want to present Mephisto as a bad guy without introducing the concept of Mephisto before this. You know, in this series maybe, but before episode 6. I know that the last 3 episodes are supposedly longer, and we might actually find that we're actually only sort of halfway through the plot, in fact, because 3-hour-long episodes against 6 half-hour episodes, that takes us to about that point. But as it is, I think Mephisto is a bit of a hard turn. I would be more forgiving if it turned out that the bad guy was Dormammu. Dormammu. Because at least this is a character that we know exists in the MCU, having appeared in Doctor Strange. So I could kind of go the Dormammu route, but Mephisto for me is a problem. And not just because of the sort of meta level kind of, can we release WandaVision in China if the devil is the bad guy? Because of the supernatural side of things being a little bit more dubious over there. How we met Quicksilver. Okay, so Quicksilver Pietro Maximoff appears at the end of episode 5, and we've now had a full episode with him, a special spooktacular episode for episode 6. And what we get of Pietro is a bit strange because, as everybody knows by this point, it's not the Pietro from the MCU, it's the Pietro from the Fox X-Men universe, or at least by the actor who played him in the Fox X-Men universe. Now that recasting means something to us, the viewer, but it doesn't really connect with Wanda at all. The fact that it is, I'm going to get this the wrong way around, Evan Peters is playing him this now? Yes, I think that's right. The fact that Evan Peters is playing him in this version of Pietro in WandaVision. Sorry, I'm just panicking that I've got that the wrong way around, but we'll go with it. That means something to us, the audience, but actually Wanda doesn't know this guy from Adam. Okay, he's got silver hair, he's claiming to be her brother, he's admitting that his face has changed. All of these things are fine. He's got super speed, so that's a point in his favour as well. But I don't think, really, that casting means anything to Wanda. So why do it? It's fun, don't get me wrong, and it was a real wow moment when it happened at the end of episode 5. I had sort of heard spoilers that he might be turning up, but I didn't think it was going to be true. Quicksilver also clearly knows a lot of what's going on behind the scenes in the Hex, in the WandaVision universe. His discussions with Wanda about how she is manipulating the reality around her and how she is, keeping the children safe in bed until she needs them for the plot, reveals a lot about what Quicksilver knows about what's happening here, what Pietro knows about what's going on here. And I think that's really interesting. But it also doesn't kind of sit well with him being the real Pietro. Because how would he know all of this stuff? How would he connect into it like this? I think the discussion Pietro has about how he died is quite interesting as well. Describing himself getting shot in the street for no particular reason, no good reason. He was protecting Hawkeye in the MCU. So, is that no good reason? I mean, maybe. Maybe Pietro regrets it after the fact. But it doesn't really quite work with what we know. Couple that with his descriptions of his Halloweens with Wanda as children not being quite how Wanda remembers them being. Really, I think we are definitely looking at definitely. Very difficult to say definitely at this point of the show, but I think the balance of probability, anyway, is in the idea that this is Pietro from a different universe, from the multiverse. And that is something that we know, and this is what the section I'm calling the multiple Big Bang theory. We do know that the multiverse is in play. We do know that this is a thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is heading towards, is playing with. We already saw in Homecoming talk about the multiverse being a thing. It was certainly a concept that wasn't alien to Peter, although it wasn't necessarily that he'd ever met anyone from a different alternate universe. So I think there is a distinct possibility that multiverse is in play, and this Pietro comes from a different universe. I think his behaviour in the show is quite interesting as well. He does strongly interact with kids. He spends most of his time, in fact, interacting with kids. His connection with Wanda seems a bit more tenuous. It's really clear that he and Wanda are slightly antagonistic. Now, this could be twins, and brother, sister, and, who knows? That could absolutely be the case. But it's also possible that what we're seeing here is that Pietro is in here to test Wanda, to poke Wanda, to see what sort of reaction he can get from her. And why would that be? Hex in the City is the next section. And I want to talk a little bit about what the hex actually means and what it's there for. I think if you're going to try and analyse what's going on in WandaVision, you have to look a little bit about what is WandaVision giving us? What are we actually getting from the plot elements in here? What are the characters getting from what we've seen? So what is Wanda getting from the hex? Well, obviously she gets to live her life with Vision, and that's a big thing for her. And she gets children, although they were a surprise to her. I mean, she was a happy surprise, but I don't think she set out with this idea that she was going to have children. So I think that was quite, perhaps subconsciously, that's what she wanted. But I don't know, it seemed peculiar, it seemed odd that she would be surprised by her children and surprised at the way they keep aging up. Wanda does not know how this hex started. I mean, she said it twice now, and she could be lying. Of course she could. But I think on one level, the show has to play fair with us. And if Wanda said this twice, I think that's them saying, look, this is true. Wanda doesn't know how this began. But she clearly has influence on the hex. So if the hex is because of somebody else, if it's, if it was Mephisto or Dormammu behind the scenes doing all this for her, they have granted her some degree of control, some degree of power over this. And certainly the people of Westview seem particularly wary about staying on Wanda's good side. Which all leads me to think, and here we get into my theory, I think that not only is Pietro from a different universe, from an alternate Earth, I genuinely believe there is a chance that there are two Wanda Maximoffs in play. And I think what we actually have here is a situation where a Wanda from an alternate universe has created the hex and has, for one reason or another, which we'll talk about in just a sec, pulled our Wanda into it. I think it explains, on one level, why Wanda doesn't know how it started, but does have influence, because she did not start this, but an alt Wanda did. And alt Wanda and Wanda's powers are similar enough that once she is in the hex, our Wanda is able to manipulate it. One thing that one of the theory channels, which one? Oh, Only Stupid Answers. Roxy Stryer is on that show, and she talks about how uncomfortable she is with this idea that the Wanda has this big turn to being a bad guy because she lost her boyfriend, because she goes mad because her boyfriend died. And that really puts a bit of a strangeness onto Wanda as a hero in the MCU. And if we're looking, again, at the metaverse, if we're looking at how Disney is presenting its female characters in the MCU, we have the two primary important characters in the MCU that are women. We have Black Widow, who they have recently killed off, and Wanda, who has, for all intents and purposes, for all it looks like, gone mad at the loss of her boyfriend. And that seems like a really weak character turn. But what if the person who turned is an alt Wanda, is a Wanda who has gone through all manner of traumas, quite different potentially from the version that we know from the MCU. I am postulating this, and this is just wild speculation at this point, that if this Alt Wanda exists, then maybe she not only lost her husband, but she lost her children during her version of the snap. That her and Vision, their relationship was much further along. They'd actually had kids, and she lost them in their version of the snap or in some other cataclysm. And she lost her brother also as part of her storyline. This means that she could be creating this hex, not necessarily to bring Vision back, although that might be a factor for her as well, but also to get her children back. And yes, we do then have a Wanda who's taken a strange turn into hysteria, which is a bad word and not something we should really enjoy because of its origins, but etymology. But it means we get to have a heroic Wanda still from the MCU. But we also get evil Wanda doing weird things. But I was talking earlier about how you can't possibly introduce a character this late in the show and have it be a satisfying reveal. You can't reveal an alternate Wanda in episode 8, just like you can't reveal an alternate Wanda in an alternate Mephisto in episode 8. That is just as unsatisfying. Except I think we've actually seen evil Wanda already. I think we've seen the alternate Wanda already. I think when Hayward sends in the drone in, that would have been episode 5, wouldn't it? Yes. When Hayward sends in the drone in the 80s form, yes, or Monica sends in the drone as the 80s form, and Hayward subverts it to try and shoot Wanda, we do get Wanda look up, see the drone, eyes glow red, and then cuts to static. And then a few minutes later, Wanda storms out of the hex, throws the drone down in front of Hayward and says, "You stay out of Westview, or there will be trouble." That Wanda is in her Avengers outfit. She is speaking with a Sokovian accent and is quite distinct, I think, potentially, from the Wanda we just saw reacting negatively to the drone. I am absolutely convinced the Wanda we saw reacted negatively to the drone and blasted out of the sky. I don't necessarily think it would have occurred to the MCU Wanda, the Wanda trapped in the hex, to have gone storming out and challenged Hayward or whoever was out there to what's going on there. We've seen Wanda throughout the earlier episodes be very confused about the outside impinging upon this world. I think the Wanda that we're getting here may have just blown away the drone, and then Alt Wanda has picked it up and gone out to challenge them. I think that makes sense of the Pietro being from a different universe as well, because she's brought her brother back. She's brought Vision back. All part of creating this universe in which she can reform her children. She can get her children back. And I think we could be setting up a Wanda versus Wanda resolution for that. It gives us quite a lot of really satisfying action. We still get a heroic Wanda Maximoff at the end of it. We get a Scarlet Witch potentially out of it, and that could be Alt Wanda. We had that thing with Hayward, and he told, does she have a silly nickname? Well, she doesn't, but maybe her alternate version does. So we could have the finale, big fight at the end, presumably there will be one, be between Wanda and Vision and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And that would be really interesting. And all over the souls of the protection of Wanda's kids, Wiccan and Speed. Do I think this is true? Possibly. I think it is as likely as any other theory I've heard out on the internet. Will I die on this hill? No. I think there's a very good chance that it's going to be something else completely. But I actually think it fits what we've seen, And without the meta commentary of no outside knowledge of knowing the comic books or whatever, it fits what we have seen on screen better than Mephisto and whatever. I think for a while there, Agnes was the sort of fly in the ointment of this theory. But I think after seeing her reaction to Vision in episode 6, I'm not so sure anymore that Agnes is the sort of henchman of Mephisto that a lot of people have been theorizing about. She could still be the henchperson of Scarlet Witch, of course. Anyway, there we go. That's my theory. And you make of it what you will. You might hate it, you might love it, but I genuinely think it's a possibility that this might be what's going on. If you like this theory, why not press the like button on this video? God, I feel like a YouTuber. I know that's what I am trying to be here. Anyway, like the video, subscribe, share your theories. Tell me why I'm wrong in the comments below. That, I think, would be quite an interesting read as well. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. And I will see you next time for whatever new pop culture thing pops into my head. All right. Cheers.